Wagner is in the center of Bakhmut, the place that was once described as vastly strategically important, and then not strategically important at all, but was strategically important enough for the Kiev regime to feed tens of thousands of their young, poor, bloody infantry conscripts into the Minsa, has fallen and is encircled, cutting off the remaining troops that have not been killed or surrendered from any possibility of resupply or reinforcement. As insiders in Zelensky's cabinet make clear, whole areas of southern and eastern Ukraine now lie open to a full-scale Russian advance. But will that be the only consequence of today's news? Because a cafe reportedly owned by the founder of Wagner, the private military company that has just defeated NATO in Bakhmut, a cafe owned by him has just blown up, killing a very important man, a military man, a media man, a man of importance in the Eastern Ukrainian politics and therefore in Russian politics. You may not have heard of Vladimir Tatarsky, but everybody in Russia has. He fell for the old Trojan horse routine, that devilish maneuver of accepting a statuette from a complete stranger at a public meeting in a cafe. And he has paid for it with his life and the limbs of 6 other people who were cut down in the exploding statuette in the minutes, seconds after, I think you can see on the screen, the terrible explosion. It's a terrorist attack, of course. It's a terrorist attack on a vital and historic Russian city. It will surely be answered. The killing of the young daughter of Alexander Dugin was answered, if you like, in a macro way. All kinds of infrastructure was severely damaged and destroyed in retaliation for that terrorist attack. But it's beyond clear, surely, that Zelensky and his gang care nothing for the vital infrastructure of their country, still less for the lives of their countrymen and women. And therefore, it's likely that this time the revenge will be acutely personal. It will focus on individuals, not on decision-making centers, but on decision makers. It's likely also to see a toughening of attitudes in Moscow, where a serious debate rages as to why Russia has not yet used the full power of its reportedly 800,000 soldiers now in the eastern part of Ukraine. When, people ask, are they going to take the gloves off? I speak as someone who has opposed this war from the day that it began, back in 2014. Anyone who was in any doubt that it began then should see the tweet I issued this week, or rather a retweet from the general election of 2015, in which I say, atop a picture of me arguing with someone in the streets of Bradford, debating the war in Ukraine on the streets of Bradford today in 2015. Some things never change. I'm still debating it now with you in 2023, but I strongly doubt that I'll be debating it in 2024. I will be speaking for the last time in Glasgow in Scotland tomorrow night. People are gathering on Glasgow Green from 6 o'clock tomorrow evening in Glasgow. No to NATO, no to war are being forced to meet like recusants in the wilderness of Glasgow Green by the memorial statue because, of course, the friends of NATO have successfully intimidated our original venue into cancelling our booking, the third time that this has happened. It will be my first speech in Scotland for many years, and as I say, it will be my last one. And it's having to be held in a secret location near Glasgow Green. Everyone gather at Glasgow Green. All roads lead to Glasgow tomorrow from 6 o'clock. And in that speech, I'll be trying to share the wisdom of Peter Hitchens, the right-wing conservative columnist in Britain's biggest selling newspaper, The Mail on Sunday Today, in which he argues that the country has been willfully deprived of a vital material fact. And that vital material fact is that this war did not begin on February 25 last year. This war began with the violent, illegal, unconstitutional, US and EU organized and executed military coup that overthrew the elected president of Ukraine, sent him fleeing into the night, setting the parliament on fire, forcing the members of the parliament unconstitutionally to sign a decree that the president had fled and must be replaced. The second decree that they were forced to sign made illegal the use of the Russian language in all public affairs in the eastern part of Ukraine, where everybody speaks Russian. In fact, Zelensky himself is a Russian speaker, can barely speak the Ukrainian language. That's how complicated this whole matter is, which makes the more shameful the visit of the British King Charles and Camilla to the German Parliament this week. Two divorcees on the throne of Britain, frolicking in Berlin. What would the deposed King Edward have thought of it? How different everything might have been. But in that speech to the German Parliament, King Charles, no less, repeated the absolute lie that the war in Ukraine on February 25 of last year was an unprovoked invasion. As Peter Hitchens points out, the very last thing in the world that it was unprovoked. It had been provoked every single day since 2014, with every barrage of rockets and shells and bullets that cut down thousands of people in the eastern part of Ukraine. Rockets, shells and bullets fired by the government forces sent by Ukraine into the areas that did not accept the violent overthrow of their president. Now, Peter Hitchens' use of the word willful is very important. It is not true that King Charles doesn't know this. It is not true that the television announcers, newsreaders, analysts, it is not true that the newspaper columnists do not know this simple truth. In other words, they are lying to the people they rule, they are lying to the people they're supposed to serve, they're lying to the customers of their television and newspaper interests. It is a militarized mendacity. It is an army of liars that have thrown sand in the eyes of the people of not just Britain, but the United States and all of Western Europe. It is a lie. I repeat the word, a lie, a calculated and deliberate falsehood to try and manufacture consent for a war which has wrecked our economy, emptied our military armories, cost the lives of our own soldiers on secret duties as so-called trainers and advisors, and risks the outbreak of a full-scale European war virtually certain to accelerate to reach the dismal high standard of an exchange of nuclear weapons. That's how important a lie it was. And into that lie machine have been drawn the grandees of the social media big tech companies, who also know that it's a lie. Just like they knew that it was a lie that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. They knew that it was a lie, as Elon Musk and his Twitter files has proved. They know that our rulers are lying to you and willingly have enlisted in the lie machine, in the army of liars. You cannot trust a word that these people say. And that's why last Sunday, 990,000 people tuned in to the mother of all talk shows. That's why we're starting MOATS in German in the month of May. That's why we're starting MOATS America as soon after that as we practically can, because the people need to hear the truth. There's a market for the truth. There's an audience for the truth. And there are sponsors for telling the truth to the people. And that's what we intend to do. Let me turn briefly to the farce that is the indictment of the former President of the United States, Donald Trump. Only a fool will need me to explain. None of what I'm about to say means I'm a supporter of Donald Trump. But like Malcolm X, I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or who it's against. I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it. So here is the truth. Sure, Donald Trump may have paid hush money to a slattern, as my good friend Lionel in the United States inimitably put it. I don't know if he can be convicted of that or not, but I'm perfectly sure that he did it. And she won't be the only slattern that he paid hush money to. Billionaires do that. Though taking a look at Stormy Daniels, I myself can't see what it was that captured his attention. But what I do know is that Bill Clinton paid a lot more hush money to a lot more slatterns, some of them provided by Jeffrey Epstein, I have no doubt. And I can't vouch for their ages either. But nobody is putting him on trial. Hillary Clinton committed a war crime in Libya, but nobody is putting her on trial. Hillary Clinton stole 1,000 times more documents from her job at the Department of State as Donald Trump ever removed to Mar-a-Lago, and I don't myself see Donald Trump as much of a reader. I doubt if he sits down burning the midnight oil, reading his presidential papers, but I know the use to which the Clinton crime gang put the documents taken by Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton from inside government. And if you don't know, take a look at the accounts of the Clinton Foundation. I know that George W. Bush killed 1 million people, and far from being put on trial for war crimes and crimes against humanity, he has evolved into a cuddly teddy bear, hugged most often by Democrats, by the Obamas, by the Clintons, and by the achingly liberal commentators on the American television networks. I know that every president of the United States has been a criminal of one sort or another. And therefore I know that the only reason the United States deep state can have decided to pursue this extraordinary banana republic move of putting their former president on a perp walk on Tuesday in New York, the only possible explanation is that they know that whilst they might have beaten them last time, and I accentuate the word might have beaten him last time, they sure as hell ain't going to beat him next time. And in a state of panic, fear and alarm, they have decided to reduce their country still further to the status of the likes of Pakistan and other banana republics, where incoming governments arrest the outgoing government, where prime ministers arrest their predecessor, where presidents arrest the person who was in office before them. The United States provides abundant evidence of its new status in the eyes of the world. Whether it is the now 131 mass shootings in the first 3 months of this year, little children, their teachers, shoppers, cinema goers, sports enthusiasts, shot down by one maniac or another, with one manifesto or another, in the course of just 3 months, or whether it is the high farce of the country which murdered Patrice Lumumba, the country which set up Nelson Mandela and let him rot on Robben Island for 27 years, the country that supported apartheid and white supremacist rule in southern Africa, holding a democracy summit in Lusaka. I know Lusaka well, though I have not been there for many years. I used to go there because that's the place where the headquarters of the African National Congress was. It's where Oliver Tambo, the man serving as leader of the ANC in the absence of Mandela in the apartheid dungeon. That's where he lived, that's where he served. The bush, stretching out from Lusaka, was the place where the armed wing, the hammer of the anti-apartheid cause, were spread out and trained. And the reason I used to go there was because I was part of an international army of those who were seeking to bring down white supremacism and apartheid in southern Africa. And we were in no doubt who our enemy was, not just the Boers, but the far more refined British, French, and even refined Americans who stood behind the forces of apartheid. Equally, we were in no doubt who our friends were. Every dinner that the armed wing of the ANC ever ate, every uniform on their back, every flight ticket that Tambo ever took across the world building support against apartheid, every materiel, every piece of propaganda, every piece of diplomatic support came to the black African majority from where? From Russia. Not from Washington or London or Paris, but from Moscow. And there is one place above all where Patrice Lumumba is remembered. His name stands proudly above the entrance to the Patrice Lumumba University in Moscow. And you want to turn the Africans against Russia? You want to win the Africans to your side? You fools. You poor, poor fools. Much more of this coming up in the next hour and 40 minutes, because this is the mother of all talk shows after all.